Hello my fiery friends, the Infernoman here with another awesome budget deck tech for you today. And today, we'll be playing Mono Black Sacrifice. We're only going to utilize 7 rares and 1 mythic in the entire deck. If you are new to the channel, this is basically how we break it down. We're going to go over the creature spells first, we'll then talk about the non-creature spells, we'll cover the land base, we'll go over the sideboard, we'll have a couple matches against Sparky to show you how the deck is run, and if you are a fan of this kind of content, please make sure to stick around for the end of the video so you can really see how to power this deck up. If you are new to the channel, please make sure to give a like on the video and subscribe to the channel to see all of my deck techs, pack openings, and more. It really does show that people do care about what I do. But enough of that, let's go ahead and let's get started. Now for the deck itself, we're going to be utilizing a total of 28 creatures which each provide a different type of value and utility. Starting with our sack outlets, Serrated Scorpion for life gain and drain. Eye Twitch is going to be here to get us extra cards from our sideboard via the learn and lesson abilities. Cursebound Witch from Alchemy 2022 is going to be something that provides very random options for us, so there's not really any way you can strategize around this. Just hope that maybe you can get something decent out of whatever the spellbook may provide for us, and just hope for the best. Archfiend's Vessel basically is something you want to do in the early game to try to put a clock on our opponent when you sack it and hopefully bring it back with one of our recursion spells, which we'll go over in just a second. As far as Vampire of the Dire Moon, not really any major utility. This is just here to prevent any big creatures from trying to push damage through to us, because you can see we're running a lot of 1-drops that are pretty weak on their own, but they are very powerful when used together. And speaking of utilizing them together, we'll have Blood Artist and Priest of the Forgotten Gods to kind of create a bit of a combo loop with this. And the way it works is you want to try to have the Priest of the Forgotten Gods out first. Hopefully you also have a Blood Artist out so that way you can start draining out your opponent and start pinging them for a ton of damage. Sometimes you can swing as high as almost 10 in one swing, from 2 damage from the Priest of Forgotten Gods to each from the Serrated Scorpion for 4, and of course the Blood Artist pinging off an extra bit of damage. So sometimes you can go from almost nothing to victory out of nowhere with this combo. To ensure that of course you want to get these cards back and keep looping them, that's why you'll have in the main deck Lurrus of the Dream Den. Now as you notice, you can, in theory with the way these cards are set up, you could put Lurrus in as your companion, but I don't want to recommend that immediately, and I'll explain why when we get to the non-creature spells. As far as our non-creature spells, we will only need 14 cards to provide extra support for what we're doing and to ensure that we can get to victory a little bit easier. Bone Shards is just going to be your catch-all removal, really easy to use. Since we don't really run a high mana curve, we're going to have a couple of extra lands in your hand, so you can always discard those extra lands to ensure that you can destroy a creature or planeswalker for 1 mana. Extremely powerful, and I can't believe this is actually only a common. That's pretty insane. Village Rites to help us sack something that maybe we have to chump block and then just try to draw into something else. Of course, if you can ping this off with the Blood Artist, it's even better. Bastard of Remembrance, think of this as more like a slightly more expensive version of the Blood Artist. And because it's an enchantment, it actually helps us ensure that we can get it down, and it's kind of hard to remove, because right now in the current format, not that much enchantment removal. It provides 1 extra token, which we can also use to sack, but of course we're using this for the drain and gain that it provides for us. And finally, Call of the Death Dweller. This is a really sweet card, synergizes extremely well with the deck. Every one of our cards is 3 mana or less, so we can bring back pretty much anything we need to ensure that we can keep looping stuff. Maybe we can get our Lurrus back if it gets blown up, or if Lurrus is already out, this provides us even extra value if you have the Priest of the Forgotten Gods out to drain out your opponent, then bring them back with the Call of the Death Dweller and just keep looping for more value. But that's basically it in terms of the main core of the deck. Now let's go over your other cards. As far as your land base is concerned, 18 lands is all you need. Again, we are running a very, very low mana curve, so we don't need anything special. And because we are only a single color, it's as simple as it can get. 14 swamps is all we need. A single copy of Castle Locthwain because we are a budget deck. And for your graveyard hate, since it is a bit of an issue right now in the format, 3 copies of Bojuka Bog. And there you go. That's basically it. Let's now go over your sideboard. Now, as far as your sideboard is concerned, we have good news and bad news. The good news, of course, is since we're utilizing the lesson and learn mechanic thanks to our Eye Twitch, we have half of it already done because mostly we're filling it up with lessons. The downside is that means that only leaves us 8 slots open for actual real sideboard, but don't fret. We can still be very efficient with what we have. As far as the lesson cards that you want to pull from an Eye Twitch, you'll have Environmental Sciences to gain us some life and get us an extra card. Necrotic Fumes to deal with any extra pesky creatures or planeswalkers. Pest Summonings for extra tokens to sack. Same with the Inkling Summonings, but also because it's a flyer, so it can be a little evasive and getting us a little extra damage in a pinch. and expanded anatomy if we need to pump something up just in case, and maybe get in some extra damage with a lifelinker or a flyer. And as far as your actual best of 3 sideboard options, 4 copies of Duress, 2 fatal pushes so we can sack and try to pick off a bigger creature that we can handle. But if a creature is too big, we have Withered Crown to keep it weakened and possibly force our opponent to sack it. And our only other option for a mass removal, or just think of it more like an extra copy of your Blood Artist, the Meat Hook Massacre, which is actually a really flexible option for us, since again, you can just adjust how strong or weak you want to make it. But that's basically it for the actual sideboard itself. As always, let's go ahead and let's have a match against Sparky to show you how the deck is meant to be played. Alright everybody, and as you can see right here, we are playing our Mono Black Sacrifice deck. So you can see it right in your hand right now. This is actually pretty good. We have 2 Swamps, we have the Priest of Forgotten Gods to sacrifice the Arcane Vessels and the Eye Twitch, and we also have a Village Rite. So this looks pretty good. We're going to keep this. We'll put out first an Archfiend's Vessel. And again, what you want to get, at least by turn 3, is the ability to start sacking and forcing our opponent to lose their creatures. We also have a Bone Shard. That's pretty good too. Okay. So we can run out what we need right now. No attacks. So even if we lose the Archfiend's Vessel here, let's see, Sparky's going to attack. We'll just do it now. This gets the Nest Robber out of the way. All right. Ooh, well, we got Blood Artist too. Oh man, we got options here. We need to run out the board first. Otherwise, the Priest does absolutely nothing. So unfortunately, Blood Artist can't trigger off just yet, so we're going to wait. With the way this deck runs, you actually don't have to, again, go for the beatdown plan at all. You actually could just let your opponent just keep swinging, and you just get all your value out of it. Okay, so here we go. The way this works out, Blood Artist. We can then get in, at least with the Eye Twitch, get a little bit of damage. Priest of Forgotten Gods. Sacrifice the Eye Twitch and the Vessel. We get a bunch of triggers off of that. Blood Artist, 2 times. Ping, ping. Eye Twitch helps us learn. All right, so what should we get? We're a little low on lands, but at the same time, I want to keep sacking stuff too. You have a couple options here. Maybe we might want to play it safe though and try to at least get. We want to make sure we hit our land drop, so we'll just go with the Environmental Sciences. Okay, and then another trigger. All right, they're down to 14, and then we have now 2. Since we could put out another creature, but because we have the 2, the Environmental Sciences actually is perfect right here. It helps us dig out a land that we're going to need for next turn. And this is good because you can see right here, the Call of the Death Dweller also can help us re-trigger everything again. So let's put out our Vampire to the Dire Moon, and there you go. All right, this now sets us up very well. Aw, Sparky. All right. You should always, of course, expect that, of course, if you're going to play this. So even though the Priest is gone, thanks to the Spark, we have now, 2 Call of the Death Dwellers. Let's bring those back. So you have a couple options here, but if you want to go with the beatdown plan, now you have the option since Sparky's board is empty. So I want to put out the Priest, but we're in a pretty good spot right now where we can actually just put these out. It doesn't really matter what you put those counters on because these things will exile. Now you get a 5/5 demon for both, so there's your beatdown plan. Go attacking with your Vampire of the Dire Moon. Get a little bit of damage in there. Alright. Swamp. Not quite lethal. We're missing by 1 point. But here's how you want to then finish this. Village Rites on the Vampire. This triggers off Blood Artist. It's on the stack. There you go. That's pretty much it for your sack deck. See? Real easy, huh? All right, everybody, and you can see we're here in match number 2. All right, we put our Swamp down. We're going to use our Duress from the sideboard for this one. We're going to take a peek at what Sparky's trying to do since we don't really have any 1-drops right now. And, all right, looks like it's all creatures. Not much we can do about this. But once we get the Priest down, we'll be in a pretty good spot. So we're going to have to take a small beating for now until we can get there. Also, with this version that we sideboarded, we got rid of our Bastion of Remembrance. And instead, we're now going to be able to sideboard out Loris from the main deck, but we can now use it as a companion. So this is unfortunately going to be a bit of a slower fight for us. But since we just took a peek at Sparky's hand and we saw they have creatures and no removal, we should be able to freely put out a couple of extra creatures. And hopefully we should be able to... Alright, we'll be able to get there with this. Eye Twitch. That's right, Scorpion. Alright, so again, unfortunately in this version we're a little bit on the slower side. But it's okay. We'll eventually start picking off their stuff in just a little bit. Alright, Sparky does not want to attack either, which gives us time. This definitely helps us out. Okay, Blood Artist. Alright. And we'll do it now. Sacrifice. Alright, here goes all the triggers on the stack. Hanging away. So just like we did before in the first match, this unfortunately triggers off their creature. However, we can still get what we need out. So in this one, we're going to get pest summonings. We have our lands. Draw another card. 2 mana. More pinging. And then, should we bring in the lure? So we have actually 2 options here. We can either use the pest, we can use the pest summonings, and then we can start slowly draining out their life again and getting more of their creatures out of the way. Or depending on how your opponent goes, if they're able to, you can also get your Lurrus out if you don't think you have to deal with any removal and just keep looping creatures on top of that. So, we're just going to go with pest summonings because we want to wrap this up quick. Alright, and this gives us at least a couple bodies if we have to chump block. Well, there you go. So, Sparky did have a minor touch of removal. We gained a little bit of life, but we were able to ping him just a smidge. Alright, Sparky goes attacking. We have plenty of life, so we're just going to take the damage. Down to 19. So, not to worry, everyone. Not to worry. Alright, so let's get a peek at that last card. Is it a land? Oh, no, it's a creature. Actually, it's a murder. Alright, we got that out of the way. So now we don't have to deal with that. Vampire of the Dire Moon. And we're going to do it again, since now their hand's empty. Same thing. Get some more triggers. This annoyingly, again, pumps up their creature, but we're not too worried about that. They sack their creature. I mean, it's Sparky, everybody. You know, what can you say? All right, swamp down. Let's bring in Lurrus. No attacks. So we can bring in Lurrus, and then bring in one of our 1-drops next turn. No attacks. Oh, he did have the murder. Alright. That's fine. So now I actually feel better that we brought in Lurrus on this one. We have another priest anyway, but this now lets us reuse what we have. So Scorpion for a little more life gain and drain. So I'm kind of glad now we had actually the companion option at our disposal. No blocks. Sparky's getting a little closer here. A little too close for my taste, but we should be good, because here's how we're going to do this. Alright, so we have the Vampire of the Dire Moon. Priest. We will... yeah, let's actually sack a creature using Bone Shards. Hit the Scavenge Forger. Kill the Serrated Scorpion for value. That triggers again. Blood Artist. Down to 5. Down to 3. Takes out their creature. Pings again. Down to 2. Alright, and then we swing with Lurrus, and there you go. That's how you can also get the win in. How to bring in those duresses to kind of take a peek and then anticipate what your opponent may have. Alright, so if you've made it this far in the video, congratulations and thank you. You are my true fiery friends. And for that, your reward is showing you secretly how to upgrade this deck and make it even better. The good news is actually the upgrades are pretty straightforward in this one. So as you can see in this one, we got rid of the Bastion of Remembrance. We're now going to put into the main deck the Meat Hook Massacre, all three copies of it total. We'll then slightly do some changes to the land base. You'll then add in 2 Hive of the Eye Tyrants for an extra beatdown plan in case the sacrifice plan does not work out. Castle Lockwain, an extra copy of that, just to make sure we can keep drawing cards. And only one of our 1-drops just needs to get tweaked, and that's going to be Knight of the Even Legion, replacing your Vampire of the Dire Moon. So with that, this option helps you get a lot more value in terms of beatdown in case, as I mentioned before, your sacrifice plan just falls completely flat and you just need to finally just get some last minute damage in. As for your sideboard, you're mostly going to keep the lesson and learn plan. There's only one change I'm going to add in. We'll drop one of the Inkling summonings and instead put in one copy of Mascot Exhibition. Despite the fact that this deck doesn't have a very huge mana base and we don't really have a way to ramp, you still, in the end game, if you absolutely have to, can get out a Mascot Expedition if you really have to go a little bit longer. As you kind of may have noticed, this deck is not, even though a low mana curve, still somewhat of a grindy style of deck, so just make sure that as you are slowly sacking, just be smart about when to sack and then when to remove. And then, of course, for the actual part of the best of 3 matches, we're going to actually swap around some more cards. We'll get rid of some of the more filler that we had, such as the Withered Crown and everything, and we'll get rid of our Duresses, and instead, we'll put in 3 copies of Thoughtseize and 3 copies of Inquisition of Kozilek. So this is mostly just for those control matchups where you have opponents that are trying to combo, ramp, and everything like that, and we're just going to try to strip their hand so that way we don't have to deal with removal. Even though our deck is pretty resilient to removal, getting rid of that just allows us more time to build up our board and pull off our shenanigans. And there you have it, everybody. That is Mono Black Sacrifice on a budget. So you tell me, what do you think? Are you a fan of slow, grindy style of games where you can just sack for value? Do you enjoy playing more of a pacifist like how I am, where I don't even have to attack our opponent directly and just let them slowly build up the board while we just pick away at everything they have? Let me know in the comments below, and I would love to hear from you guys. Also, if you stick around a little bit later on this week, I actually do have some bonus footage that I'll be placing up as mostly exhibition and demonstrations of some of these deck techs that I've done against actual real opponents. Most of the videos will have various sizes and lengths. Sometimes they may be just 1 match, and sometimes they may be like 3 or 4 matches. But again, if you do want me to actually put out more exhibition style of gameplay, again, give me a comment below, and I would again love to hear from all of you. But aside from that, thanks again for watching, everyone. Please make sure to give a like on the video and subscribe to the channel to see all the deck techs, pack openings, and more. And just remember that no matter what you do play in the game of life, always be sure to burn bright. Later.